What's up, guys? David here, 122, and it's list day. Ah, it was a Christmas party last night. Okay. Nothing like being a little hungover and talking about bad Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This is gonna be a long video. And as you guessed it by what I just said, or the title of the video, or the thumbnail, probably the thumbnail, is that this is the top 10 worst cards of 2017. I have to thank you guys, my subscribers, because you guys helped me make this list, because you guys gave me all the ideas of what to put on here. The list ended up being like 34 or 40 cards that were all really, really bad. So it was a bear to get this down to 10 with like 3 honorable mentions, but I think I did a good job, and I really did grind myself to see exactly what I could do to tease out anything that maybe these cards can do in order to get them off the list. So if your card is not on here, I mean, sorry, I guess it's bad, but not as bad as these, but it was probably definitely on the initial list. So anyway, let's get started. The way I'm going to do this list is a little more structured than I normally do. It's going to contain 2 parts for each card. Why the card is bad and what I could think you could do with it, I guess, in order to defend its existence to the best of my ability. So here we go. Number 10 is a dual entry with Ghost Beef and Mild Turkey. They're part of the same kind of like theme, so I figured including them as one entry wouldn't be ridiculous. So what are they? Well, they're both normal pendulums. Ghost Beef is a level 7 scale 4, where Mild Turkey is a level 4 scale 7. See what they did there? Flipped them. And what do? Well, they're normal monsters, so they have no monster effects, but they both do have a pendulum effect, and that pendulum effect is you can roll a 6-sided die and increase or decrease the pendulum scale of this card. Ghost Beef increases, Mild Turkey decreases. So the level 4 goes up, and the level 7 goes down. Also, their flavor text is lit, but I'll let you guys, you know, check that out. Why are these cards bad? Well, having an inconsistent pendulum scale that you can't count on is really annoying. I'm not exactly sure why you would ever want to do that, because if you're trying to play a pendulum deck and then you're like, alright, well, I need to pendulum summon, and I need to pendulum summon this X level monster, so I need to get this dice roll proper, you wouldn't do that. It's clumsy. I can't even conceivably think why you might want to do that. Not to mention their stats are pretty bad. For a level 7, Ghost Beef is terrible. 2,000 attack for 2 tributes? Oh, that's terrible. I mean, yeah, because we could conceivably pendulum summon it, but it's like, what, a dark level 7 beast? It's nothing, there's no good typing there, I don't know. And then Mild Turkey's a level 4 fire for some reason, wing beast. It's kind of funny it's a wing beast because it's a cooked turkey. But even still, I don't know what you're supposed to do with these. Why might they be good? Well, they're certainly not, but I guess the thing that you can do with them is that because they are normal pendulum monsters, there is some things like Unexpected Die and what's the other one? Painful Decision? Is that what it's called? So there's ways to get at these things and get them out of the deck and things like that, so at least you can do stuff with them. However, again, they themselves don't do anything, and their pendulum effect is really strange, so yeah, they're a hard number 10. Breakaway! Breakaway is on the list mostly because of its poor card economy rather than its effect. Breakaway is a normal trap that says during your opponent's battle phase you can discard 1 spell card from your hand to end the current battle phase. And then, for the rest of the turn, all face-up monsters on the fields have their effects negated. Now you might say, okay, that's not bad. And frankly, it's not. It's okay, I guess. But why is it on the list? Well, its activation condition is an absolute nightmare. Having to discard a spell card specifically from your hand in order to activate it is annoying. Sure, Harpies, I guess, could run it, but having a specific type of discard already makes the card really, really clumsy. But not only that, it has to be activated during the battle phase. So unlike, let's say, Skill Drain, which you can just activate whenever, this thing needs to be activated during the battle phase. So that means your opponent's already established a board, played all their cards, made a humongo field, and then they're about to swing for damage, and you're now going to finally stop that and then negate everything on the field's effects. If this thing can even last that long, then I would be amazed. But what can you do with it? Well, like I said, its effect isn't awful. Negating all the monsters in the field at all is a pretty solid effect. It's just that it's doing it way too late, making the card useless. But it's not awful, and I guess if you're playing this in something like Harpies, you could discard Sign or something and get a bunch of advantage. But it's just, its activation condition is so poor and dumb that this will never work. Your opponent will get rid of it before they go to the battle phase. Dark Angel. You remember that show? I'm so old. Dark Angel is a level 5 Dark Fairy, which makes sense, I guess. That level 5 though. Ugh. That has the following effect. When one of your fairy monsters is attacked, you can tribute the monster that's being attacked as well as discarding this card from the hand of the graveyard in order to increase one monster on the field's attack by the attack of the monster that you tributed until the end of the turn. Wow! This is like the world's worst honest ever. The card can only be used on fairy monsters, which most fairies are light types, so you would rather just use honest, frankly, and that's less card economy loss. But you know what? Sure, I guess some fairies are darks and some fairies are winds and things, so this does cover them. However, tributing a monster on your side of the field and losing a card from your hand is a nightmare of card economy. You're pretty much negging yourself 2 cards just for a mediocre attack boost. Like, that's terrible. You better hope your opponent attacked your best guy so that you can tribute it and target one of your other guys and have its attack go way up. To do what, though? Prevent your opponent from attacking your next guy if you even have one, because you just lost a guy on your field just to get a boost. But not only that, it's a level 5. What the hell are you supposed to do with this thing? It's not like you could ever play it to the field if you actually needed a monster on board. And it's got 0 attack and 0 defense. It's literally only a hand trap, and it's not even good. This card's just annoying. What could you do with it? Well, you could damage calc shark somebody with this, I suppose, because it is an attack modulation effect, which means you should be able to use it during damage calc. So if they attack one of your dudes, you can tribute the guy during the what? Wait, I don't even think that's gonna work because it's already in damage calc. So the guy's been attacked and you lost, and now you're gonna tribute it before it's sent to the graveyard? You know what? Screw it. I can't think of what you're supposed to do with this thing. It's bad. Next card. Oh boy. FA Turbocharger, or just the whole FA archetype, doesn't really matter. Thank you, Konami, for taking the art style of my favorite UAs, which is already a bad deck, and making it a worse deck that has nothing to do with the first one. Oh, FA's, the race car deck. Most of them are just level 4 with a bunch of weird effects that they gain more effects when their levels go up, as well as they get more attack power. And then, presumably, they all raise their own levels when you use UA spells or traps, and some of those UA spells or traps raise their levels further. It's a level modulation archetype. And frankly, some of the monsters in the archetype's effects aren't bad once they get to level 7. One of them's like a normal summonable Darklaw. But I think the issue with the entire deck is that level modulation is slow and bad, and you'll never get it off. The best way to use these cards is with like Marshalling Field, which is a trap card, so it's like super slow. And then you're devoting half of your deck just to like tertiary level modulation cards as opposed to cards that would actually help you win a duel, just so that you can get your monsters to have the effects they were intended to have. And the reason why I picked Turbocharger to represent the deck is because he's like a level 5, which means you can't even normal summon him, you gotta tribute him. That's clumsy as hell. What does Turbocharger do besides the attack increase depending on level? Your opponent cannot target your monsters with effects or attacks with anything that is a level or rank less than this card's level, except this card. Meaning, anything weaker than him gets funneled into attacking or using his effects on him instead of the other monsters you have on the field. Basically, he's running a pick for your Darklaw monster. Mach-On, I think? And then when a Speller Trap is activated, that it's a FA Speller Trap, he gets to increase his own level by 1, like all the other ones do. And when he becomes level 7, your opponent cannot activate their monster's effects until after the damage step when this thing attacks. So it's kind of like a semi-Armades just for monsters. Oh boy. I mean, like I said before, the FAs have some decent effects, but the fact that they're based on level modulation makes them like almost worse than Geminis, where you have to do something extra just for them to actually be able to do anything, and that is just never going to work unless they get some bomb support in the next couple of sets. But what can you do with it? Well, like I said, Marshalling Field can get this thing's level up to 9, I think, pretty quickly. You know, it is level 5, so you got Monarch Stormforth, I guess? I don't know, the whole deck is weird. The fact that it's like Wind Machines, weird typing, like they could have been lights, that would have been nice, but then the deck might have been good. But yeah, sure, whatever, next card. I think the worst thing about 2017s with the bad cards is they're all pretty unremarkable. They're not like at least comically bad, they're just really lackluster. So it makes this like really boring. All these cards are so boring, and Capacitor Stalker is literally the most boring card I've ever read. Oh my god, I'm falling asleep reading this thing. What does it do? Capacitor Stalker is a level 5 Cyberse light monster with 2000 attack. Yuck. That has an effect when it's normal summoned. Double yuck. When this card is normal summoned, you can target one other Cyberse monster, have it gain 800 attack. If this card in a monster zone is sent from the field to the graveyard, both players take 800 burn damage. Whoop-de fucking do. Why did they print this? What year is this? This came out in 2017? This is the kind of stupid, bogus, totally not worth the effect you'd see on like a Legend of Blue Eyes monster. It's even stats are about that. Like, ew, level 2000 for level 5 is garbage. And for a mediocre attack boost, what are you doing? Think about the setup you have to have for this. You have to have 2 monsters on board and have not used your normal summon yet. You have to sack one of them to stick this thing on top of it and then target the other monster for 800 attack. Yay. And that burn effect, it's not even like sent from the field to the graveyard like I think I said. It's actually destroyed by card effect, meaning if you link with it, it doesn't just like, you know, do a little burn while you're linking to kind of like keep the momentum of your play going. Nope, it's got to be killed by a card effect, meaning, yeah, that'll never happen. And even if it does, if your opponent Regekis this stupid thing for some reason, 800 burn damage, unless they're like at 800 life points and they're gonna kill themselves by doing that, this will never do anything. Why is this a thing? The Cyberse like deck is supposed to be like a hyperlink deck, and this thing is a tribute summon. Like, what is this even for? Why do they? Ugh. Terminal World next. Are you guys ready for literally the least inconvenient Floodgate card that has been ever printed ever? It's this. If you control no cards and your opponent controls 3 or fewer monsters and 3 or fewer spells and traps, you can play this thing. Oh boy. Already, I don't even have to say what the rest of the card does. That's already the most specific activation condition I have ever heard. Your opponent, you need to be going second, have nothing on your field yet, and your opponent pretty much had to make the world's most lackluster board. Like 2 monsters in a back row or something in order for this thing to even work. If they completely exploded, this does nothing. If they did absolutely nothing, this does nothing. They need to make a mediocre board for this to even be activatable, which is just really dumb, but whatever, what does it do? Well, it's kind of a crappy Kaiser Coliseum. Neither player can put cards on the field that would make them have 3 or more monsters or 3 or more spell or traps. Meaning that those monsters and traps and spells that they set up on their turn, that's all they can have. They can't have more than 3 and 3. Which, okay, that means something like, I don't know, pendulums are going to have a hard time because their scales take up 2 slots. That means they only got 1 real back row left, and then they can only pendulum summon a couple of monsters. However, 2 scales, trap graph, omega, and star time. There you go. You've already lost the duel, and he has everything he needs in order to beat you, and your Floodgate did nothing. Fine, spirals, sleeper and last resort with the field spell. That's all they need to beat you. This did nothing. It doesn't even like make them remove cards in order to get to the limit. I don't even know what the point of this thing is. If it did it only to your opponent, I could see it. Because then you could kind of like, I don't know, use this as some sort of way of keeping your opponent from making a tremendously powerful board in order to combo against whatever you're playing. However, it hits you too. So you can't even do that. You can't even like make a big board and then play this thing to keep your opponent's number of cards and the field presence down. Nope. No, I don't even know what you're supposed to do with this thing. Okay, so fine. What could we do to make it good? I don't know. Rewrite the card? Jesus. The only thing I can see this card being good for is against a very specific deck that absolutely needs like all of its back row and all of its monsters in order to make a humongo board, because that's just how the deck works, and this makes it make a bunch of mediocre plays. Like I said, maybe Pendulum Magicians. However, Pendulum Magicians is still a consistent and strong enough deck that even with a mediocre board, unless you're also playing something that's very, very powerful, it's not going to matter and it's still going to beat you. And the fact that this makes you also have to have a mediocre board in order to keep the card, then yeah, that's going to be a really boring duel, and this card's stupid. Temple of the Mind's Eye. It's a field spell. That's a plus. What does it do? Any battle damage either player takes becomes 1,000. Okay, why? I think the idea with this is that you can use one of those really little guys that can attack directly, like, I don't know, Lilybell or something, and then actually get more value out of it because the monster that's attacking is doing more than it inherently would. However, That would mean that you don't have your Trickstar spell on the board, which is bad. And in order to make this card really work, it requires other cards. It's like it itself doesn't really do very much, and you need a bunch of gimmicky little Watt-like cards that either attack directly or you're Moon Mirror shielding for 100 damage and you want to boost it up to 1,000. Basically, this is one of those really mediocre 3-card combos that this is part of, and that use is so mediocre and bad that it's not going to win you a game ever. And I guess on the flip side, you could say, well, if you were attacked with your 0 defense monster from a Chaos Max Dragon, oh, it won't take 4k to the face, or actually it would be 8,000 damage, because it's double. You'd only take 1,000. So I guess it would save your life in a few instances. However, there are much better ways of doing that. You know, mirror forces. And this is a face-up field spell. What's your opponent going to do? Just not deal with it? If that's what they're trying to do with their Chaos Max Dragon, they're just going to let it at the end of the field and swing and wonder why you didn't die. No, they're going to look at it and be like, oh, okay, I got to get rid of that. Now I'm going to smack you in the face. But what could you do with it? I don't know. Like I said, Lily Bell. Too bad you can't have your other field spell on board. But she would be more of a threat. Watts could use it. It's certainly better than their field spell, so I guess that's a thing. I don't know. It's really subpar, and it's a really boring card. Way unremarkable. Massive Morph. Oh, it's a trap card. It's slow. Target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and double its current attack and defense until the end of the turn. But it can't attack directly. Why would you ever want to do this? Why would you ever want to double your opponent's monster's attack and defense? Oh, sure, it can't attack directly, so I suppose if you have no monsters on board, and that's the only guy they got, you can keep them from attacking you. Again, a million other cards that do that better. Which would mean that the point of the card is the doubling, not the attack misdirection. Because there has to be some sort of utility with that. And I can't for the life of me figure out why you'd ever want to do that unless you're trying to crash your monster into it, and your monster has some gimmicky effect where it reflects the damage back at them, or you're trying to use Inferno Tempest something. Oh boy, it's one of those super niche weirdo effects that no one will ever play, and the only time it works is in a 5-card combo that will never be viable. So again, I don't know what you're supposed to do with this. 3 Strikes Barrier. This card's name is super confusing because if somebody asks you what tech cards are running in your deck and you're like 3 Strikes Barrier, they're going to think you mean you're running 3 Solemn Strikes and a Dimensional Barrier. Not you're running 3 Strikes Barrier. Even if you were running 3 strikes in a barrier, that's a weird ratio to run a barrier at 1 off like that. But even still, this card's not good. If your opponent controls exactly 3 cards, you can activate one of these 3 effects. Ooh, these could say win the duel, and this card would be bad. Why is it so specific? They control 3 cards. I suppose, in theory, if you have this set and you're going first and your opponent starts to activate their plays and stuff on their turn, yeah, at some point they probably control 3 cards along the way, so you can just flip this thing up at the first opportunity. But why would you ever want a card that is so specific in how it works? Like, what if your opponent's playing, I don't know, like True Dracos, and they know you have this thing? They're just gonna play like Masterpiece, and that's it. Like, oh, I only got 2 cards on the field, ooh, some dumb crap like that. So they're going to play around this once they know you have it. But that would be assuming the effects were good and worth playing around. What are they? Well, effect number 1. This turn, your monsters can't be killed by battle. Okay, what's the second effect? This turn, you take no battle damage. Okay, what's the third effect? Each time your monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you gain that much life points. Literally, none of these are worth it. 2 of these you can just do with Waboku, and you don't have to worry about how many cards your opponent controls. Waboku came out in like starter deck Yugi. If you guys really want to play this card, I will give you a Waboku, because I'm not letting you do this. This is so dumb. And that last effect, who cares? Oh, I swung and I hit you for 1,500, oh, I'm gonna get 15 back, big freaking whoop. Anyone with any competitive knowledge would know that life points don't matter. The only life point that matters is your last one. That's why people will pay 3K or 4K for things like Solemn Scolding and Destrudo, because if you go off and your plays are crazy, it doesn't matter that you used half your life points, you won because your play was crazy. So why are you so worried about trying to get life points back? That's so dumb. And why are you using 3 Strikes Barrier when it requires your opponent to have a very specific board in order to use this? Just play Waboku or Mirror Force. Threatening Roar! Hell, Battle Fader. At least you could use it as link material on your turn. Like, there's so many better options. Alright, now it's time for some honorable mentions. Oh man, these honorable mentions, they're so good. Holy crap. Well, these honorable mentions are different because normally I put in cards that I couldn't quite get on the list, but they're certainly worth being on the list, or they're banned or something like that. However, these cards are more super niche, and I can't figure out whether or not they're good in very specific situations, or they're just so specific they're bad. First up is Duck Dummy. Duck Dummy. A lot of people wanted me to put this on the list proper. However, I had a hard time justifying it because all the other cards on the list are so lackluster and bad that this thing is just okay. It's a level 1 Wing Beast Water. Okay, not bad. It's a Gemini though. Ugh. Whoever thought Geminis were gonna be a good thing? Like, who at Konami was like, you know what we need? Monsters that need to be normal summoned twice. That sounds not super slow and unviable. But whatever, let's stop harping on the Gemini and talk about his Gemini effect. Well, if you manage to normal summon this thing a second time, what do you get to do? This card can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Okay, meaning that it's pretty much invincible. Also, any attacks that your opponent would make become direct attacks instead. Huh. Meaning this is technically not killable by battle either because your opponent can't actually attack it. This second effect is probably why people were suggesting it to be on the list, because not only is it a Gemini, it's a Gemini that makes itself invincible, but also lets your opponent just keep smacking you in the face, which is pretty bad. And I get it, it's super slow. Being a wing beast is weird. If it was like an Aqua or something in a level 1 in a water, you'd have some utility with it. And the fact that your opponent gets to smack you in the face is kind of a problem. But why is it only an honorable mention? Because it's in this weird gray area where it's very hard to deal with. Your opponent is going to have a tough time getting this thing off the board. However, because they can just smack you in the face, they don't have to get it off the board. It's the weirdest thing. I've never seen a card that makes it so hard for you to deal with it, but you don't actually have to deal with it. Like, your opponent couldn't get rid of it if they wanted to, but they have no reason to. It's so weird. The only thing I think of is you could probably equip this thing with Moon Mirror Shield, then use the Gemini summon to get its effect, so it's already been targeted by the Moon Mirror Shield. Then you just kind of keep smacking into stuff, and your opponent really can't get rid of it. However, they could get rid of the Moon Mirror Shield, and you're stuck with this stupid thing. However, I guess that's a thing. Which actually might be why it's a Gemini effect, because that way you can do a bunch of stuff to it, then get its effect off so that you can set up this unbreakable lock and then have your opponent have to deal with it, as opposed to it being just a regular monster with a regular effect, and where it's always untargetable and all this other garbage, so that you can't even like equip it with things or stuff like that. That's probably why it's a Gemini. I get where they're going with it. I couldn't have the heart to put it on the list because it's kind of a funny card, but it's certainly not very good. Boogie Trap! I think I actually made a video about this when it was announced. It's a normal spell that reads, discard 2 cards. Ew! I don't even have to finish. Discard 2? Boo! You can target 1 trap in your graveyard, set it to your side of the field. You can activate it this turn if you'd want, which is kind of neat. You can only activate 1 boogie trap a turn. Like you would have the resources to activate 2. Well, it's a neg 2. It's a hard neg 2. This thing gets a trap out of your grave, so that goes even, then you discard 2 cards. Discard 2! That is so steep. The reason why it's not on the list though is because there are some really powerful trap cards in the game, and this thing doesn't say normal traps or continuous traps, it just says trap cards. You can get counters, you can get anything. So if there's a trap card in your grave, like, I don't know, Vanity's Emptiness or something like that, even though that's banned. Like a big, tough Floodgate that your opponent finally was able to deal with and then made a couple of plays, but they were still kind of behind, you can, like, I don't know, get your anti-spell Fragrance back or something against that Pendulum player and make him deal with it again. If you're, like, playing, like, I don't know, Spirals, you have tons of advantage, you can blow 2 cards on this thing's activation cost, sure, getting back a Floodgate might be worth it. So that's why I didn't put it on the list proper. However, discard 2 is just so steep. Ugh. Smile Universe. I couldn't put this card on the list because it's so happy. Look how happy this thing is. This is a happy card. What does it do? Well, it's a quick play. Hey, nice. You can special summon as many face-up pendulum monsters from your extra deck as you can. Whoa, wait, what? Their effects are negated and your opponent gains life points equal to the combined attack of everything you summon. You cannot normal summon, special summon, or attack the turn you use this. However, being a quick play, you're probably end-phasing this thing. A la Scapegoat. Wait, you're telling me this is like a soul charge for the pendulum monster stuck in your extra deck? That's fantastic. Why is this even in the honorable mentions? This card is freaking broke. Oh, because the Master Rule 4 makes this thing kind of a bear to use. Yup. You can only special summon the monsters to extra monster zones or link monsters linked zones because they count as a special summon from the extra deck, therefore they can only go to appropriate zones. So you can't just get 5 monsters back. If you have, I don't know, Mistar Boy on the field, you can get 2 cards back. And if you don't have a link monster, you can get 1 back. This one's on the honorable mentions because the card itself is actually really good. It just got really screwed by Rule 4, making this card absolutely useless and slow and bad. I suppose if you wanted to, you could refill a Decode Talker. That'd be kind of cute. You could get Bomber Dragon's effect off. That'd be kind of cute. And in Pendulum Magicians, which is probably the only deck you'd ever want to run this stupid thing in, you know, getting a couple back and then letting them die or whatever. Okay, you get some effects off. Not stupid. Would a Pendulum player ever run this? No. But yeah, it's hard to say the card's super bad. It kind of just unfairly is nerfed by a rule, which is probably why this card was even released, because if this was released before Master Rule 4, this card would have been busted. Alright, number 1, what is it? Remote Rebirth. Oh boy. Target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to a link zone that one of your monsters points to on your opponent's side of the field. Wait, so I'm using a slow trap to special summon a monster from my opponent's grave to my opponent's field to a spot that my monster points to. So I guess that 1 forward Decode Talker space. I think Bomber Dragon has a forward space too, right? So I guess that's what they're for. Refilling your weirdo link monsters that point at your opponent's stuff. But why would you want to do that? Why would you neg yourself, what, 2? Because you're using this card and your opponent's gaining a monster. That's a neg 2. A hard neg 2. Just for a slow trap to give your opponent more card advantage? Why would you want to do that? Oh sure, your Decode Talker gets his attack boost. Yay. Oh, you could trip Bomber Dragon, like with Smile Universe. Yay. All of those are just fantastically suboptimal plays that you would just rather not do and not play this card. I frankly can't really think of any other use except for like what those 2 I said where you'd ever actually want to do this. And most of the time, if you try to do this, your opponent's probably going to stop whatever your next play to follow up this thing is and just keep the monster and laugh at you. And when they make a better link monster because you gave them a free resource. I suppose you could do the old Relay Soul trick where you exchange this over to your opponent's hand and then hope to God they set it and then hit it with Bait Doll so that you can get like a free monster. Yeah, you're better off playing Relay Soul. Oh man. Whew. But anyway guys, that was the list. I hope you enjoyed all these bad cards as much as I did. This year was actually a really good year for Yu-Gi-Oh! As far as power creep is concerned. A lot of very powerful cards. So it's kind of neat to see that all the worst cards of the year are just bad because they don't have much of a function. Not because they're like, you know, lose the duel, scrub. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think and any of the bad cards that you saw this year. And remember guys, if you don't troll the meta, who will? I will see you guys next time.
The Destiny board tells me that you should subscribe to the channel, or you can watch some of these other videos. Now excuse me, my Millennium Ring has detected another Millennium item. Oh, it's just Merrick.
Akora, did you remember to get milk? We're out of milk. This milk is bad. It was terrible.